All right. Thank you all so much. Welcome. Thank you for coming out. It's very cold, so we appreciate it. Very cold, not usually for New England, but for this winter, it's very cold. Welcome to our panel discussion and workshop on creating meaningful internships. My name is Jennifer Lawrence, and I am honored to be the Executive Director of the Hideo Sasaki Foundation. We are the host of this evening's conversation. Thank you for being here. We must first acknowledge the land on which we are meeting this evening. This land is the territory of the Massachusetts, Pawtucket, and their neighbors, the Wampanoag and Nipmuc peoples, who have stewarded this land for hundreds of generations. We recognize the repeated violations of sovereignty, territory, and water perpetrated by invaders that have impacted the original inhabitants of this land for 400 years. We extend our respect to citizens of these nations who live here today, their ancestors who have lived here for over 500 generations, and all Indigenous people. We also affirm that this acknowledgement is insufficient. It does not undo the harm that has been done and continues to be perpetrated against Indigenous people, their land, and their water. We must do better. The Hideo Sasaki Foundation was founded in 2000 by friends and family of our venerable namesake, Hideo Sasaki, to continue his legacy of teaching, multidisciplinary design, and creating more opportunities for access to the design industry. In 2018, we created a new vision to expand our programming and opportunities for design across Greater Boston. At the Sasaki Foundation, we believe that design has the power to address the most urgent challenges facing us, and that design can be an agent of change. Our work aims to amplify the voices of communities, to create space for dialogues that highlight important topics of social justice and resilience, to allow people access to design, and to provide design education and employment opportunities to youth. Our programming is in 3 pillars. Our first pillar is research, through which we host a design grants program. If you're interested in funding to create a community-led design solution, the request for proposals is open now as of this week, and applications are due, and you cannot see it, of course, but for all of you who are in this room, applications are due on May 1st at noon, sasakifoundation.org, and then you can go to our design grants page. We also host public programming, which is our second pillar. This includes events such as this, networking opportunities, and other workshops. This is just a little snippet of what we did in 2023. You can find out more information on our website, and I'm sorry, something is happening on our Angelo. Can you come over and help me with this screen? Angelo is gone. Okay. Something's happening right here. It says join audio to start speaking, and it keeps bumping up. Apologies, folks. This was going so well for our recording, too. Hold on one second. I'll say, Matt, please take this part to this part out. Thank you. It seems okay, right? I think it's good now, Tao. Is everybody online? Can you still hear us? Let me know what they say, Zeke. Okay, cool. We're going to keep going. It seems to be okay. Yeah, that's okay. Awesome. Okay. And our final tier, thank you, Tao. Tao, the fantastic board of trustees member who fixes our tech from time to time. The third pillar is design education, through which we host summer and school year programming. You will hear about that a lot tonight, so I won't go into it right now. But we also partner with the BSA and the PIC on an architecture and design thinking week through the vacation weeks, which we just had. Also, to do this work, we have a strong team of volunteers, whether on our board, volunteers from Sasaki and the greater design industry, and then non-volunteers on our staff. This evening's workshop brings experts from Acentech, PowerCorps Boston, the Boston Society for Architecture, and our very own Hideo Sasaki Foundation. As you will see this evening, much of our organizational focus is on youth education and engaging meaningfully with young designers and young professionals to learn from them, introduce them to what a career can look like, and specifically a career in this industry. You'll see also lots of them around here tonight, so ask them questions, and to work towards a more equitable future. You can see that the evening split into sections. The first section will be an expert panel with these folks right up here. We're going to learn about their experiences creating internship programs. We'll hear how they made them meaningful, and we'll talk a little bit about the lessons they've learned about engaging with your broader employee base. We'll then split into small groups, and that's where you'll really get into the nitty-gritty of how do I create this program within my company. We'll do 2 different small groups, so you'll get to talk to 2 different experts about 2 different topics. You can stay in the same one twice if you'd like. For those virtually with us this evening, we'll also have some breakout groups there. We are going to try to take questions, but we've got a lot on our agenda, so I don't know that we'll get to them all. Feel free to ask them to me or any of the staff here tonight. We'll write them down. You can put them in the chat if you're online, and then we'll get those answers to you. Before we start, we have a quick poll for you. So who in this room has hosted an internship before? Oh, okay, this is looking good. Okay, great. For high school students. I'm looking at online too. Feel free to raise those hands. What about college students? Great. Oh, good. This is a great starting off point. And then where are you from? Who here is from a nonprofit organization? Nice. What about a municipality? All right. A firm or a company? And a college or a university? Oh, we're missing that demographic. Okay. Oh, good. We got one. And then what about somebody I did not mention? Another group. Okay. Well, that's good. I got the list right. For those of you in the room, the last thing I have before I turn it over to the panel are very important updates. Get up and refill your plates and your food and your drinks throughout the evening, please. It's very informal. The restrooms are around the corner behind me to your right. If you do need to take a phone call, please go around the corner back where you came in, but know that it's an open floor plan, so be very quiet when you're talking on the phone. And please silence your telephones. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Stephanie Benitez, who is your moderator for this evening. She is the program manager at the Hideo Sasaki Foundation.
Thank you. I am so excited to open this discussion, as internships have been a very integral part of my life. And I think it's been a very important topic to discuss. So before I begin, I just want to thank our amazing panelists here. Give them a round of applause for making the time, sharing their valuable insights on this topic. So before we begin, we just wanted to, all of us have discussed, certain key things that we think are very important in what a job versus an internship is. So a job, we all know what a job is. All of us that have been working forever, we know. It's where you do a task, you're given a set of responsibilities, and you get paid for that, performing and doing those responsibilities, right? So internships are very different. They're a professional learning experience. So there's like a lot of ways to do them, but in order for them to be meaningful, we have to recognize a few things. So an internship is short-term, and it offers meaningful practical work related to that student's field of interest or career. So internships are very critical in training young people how to have a job, communication skills, and growing their networks. This is a very valuable aspect of the internship. And it should be a safe place for the intern to grow and be confident in what they're learning. So it's a very intentional process, and we'll talk more about that intentionality in a little bit. But the other thing that all of us believe here is that internships should be paid. And the reason for that is not everybody has a luxury of not working. There's lots of people that, students that have to work to provide for their families. And that may not be something familiar to all of us, but it's something very common. And when unpaid internships exist, what happens is that socioeconomic inequalities perpetuate more. So the student has to make a choice between providing for their family or growing, which we don't think should be separate. We think they should be together, and they should be, important, and the opportunity should be given. The other aspect is that we really believe in the shift of the work culture, where interns are also valued for their time. That so young professionals are taught that their time is valuable, and we don't perpetuate this idea that if you're an intern, you're not as important as staff, which is, for a long time, that's kind of been like, oh, I'm just here. I'm just thankful to be here, which is great that they're thankful, but also as employers and organizations, we should be very thankful that they're here teaching us as well, because it's a growing opportunity for the industry and like the employers and organizations, but also for that youth. And the other last thing I want to touch, sorry. So one of the other things that we believe as a group here too is that we should all be growing in cultural competency. So, generations are shifting, environments are changing, cities are changing. And, it's important for employers and institutions to be aware. And what better way than to provide these learning opportunities where we're learning as well what's happening. And we're giving this precious opportunity to a person that really needs it and is really excited. That's what the best thing about youth, and they're so excited. And I think as we all were talking about it earlier, they're like our kids, over time they feel like our kids because we've seen through their growth. We've seen them at, the very early stages to, the older stages. But without further ado, I'll hand it over to the panelists to introduce themselves. We can start with our very own Jimmy.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Fola Jimmy Badimosi, but you can call me Jimmy. I'm originally from Nigeria. I work as the program associate for the Sasaki Foundation, as well as the youth manager for the SEED and the DESI programs. I have about a cumulative 6 to 7 years of working with youth in different capacities, nonprofit and personal and professional development. Yeah, so that's me.
Thanks, Jimmy. I'm Ben Markham. I'm the president of Acentech. Acentech is an acoustics technology and noise and vibration control company. We're based here in Greater Boston and Cambridge. We also have small offices in Philadelphia, Los Angeles, and Charlottesville, Virginia. And in my role, I have the great honor of working with 80 or so people, 60 of whom are in this area. And for a number of years, we have operated an internship program at the university level that we're proud of and continue to grow. I look forward to sharing insights about that today.
Hi there, I'm Taylor Johnson from the Boston Society for Architecture, right down the street. I'm the design education and engagement manager there, and I manage the K-12 portfolio that ranges from kindergarten classrooms all the way up to throughout high school, which we'll talk about today. And then personally, I have a really vested interest in providing paths and providing access to youth to be able to explore architecture and design as a lens and a kind of a way of seeing the world. So whether that's partnerships, BSA programming, or otherwise, that's just my own personal interest.
Hello, this evening. Tariq Ramsey from PowerCorps Boston. I'm a crew leader for the Building Operations track. We are a workforce development program aimed at helping Boston youth 18 to 30 get trained in the green industry as a part of Mayor Wu's Green New Deal.
Sorry, my mic went off. I'm just going to go back to the agenda. I'm just going to move this quickly so we can have a chair. Thank you. I'm excited to get to these questions. Awesome. So I wanted to ask you also, how do we make internships a meaningful and successful experience for young people?
So the first thing that you have to think about when creating an internship for a young person is not what does the young person need, but like how can you aid and support their positive development? I think the foundation and the basis of any internship should be positive youth development, in the sense that it's a framework that encourages people to think about youth in a more holistic sense and youth development from different angles. Positive youth development is about creating safe spaces for you to be able to grow and engage with the world around them, to be able to have meaningful relationships with adults other than their family. Because when you're young, the most of the adults you know in your life are your teachers and your family. Anybody else are strangers. But like other adults, especially in fields that they're interested in, creating that avenue for that relationship is part of what makes a meaningful internship. So when looked through the lens of positive youth development, a all-round holistic way of developing a person, then you can think about what meaningful means. So when you can say that, oh, this program that we're having or this internship is something that helps this young person become the full version of what they can be, like to achieve and attain their full potential, then I think that you are just then scratching the surface of what a meaningful internship is. And I think another aspect, another dimension of a meaningful internship is the experience itself. When I think back to my experiences and my work experiences, my early career, and I think about the experiences that mattered most to me and the experiences that I recount the most when people ask me, oh, what have you done in the past or what was working like for you as a young person? I always go back to experiences that made me feel like I was part of solving a problem, whether it was part of the organization's problem or a social problem. I have my background in nonprofit work, so it was usually a social problem, but just that engagement, that chance, the opportunity, the empowerment that he gave me, the knowledge of the agency that you have power to change something around you, you have influence and you have impact, was what made many of my early professional experiences very meaningful. Someone just telling me that this is a problem, how would you solve it? Making me know that I have a voice, I have agency, and I can enact some change in the situation that I'm in or in the space that I'm in or in the organization that I'm in, really made those internships stick with me, or those programs or those professional experiences stick with me.
So, so in summary, like you think that being treated as an equal in spite of your age is like what really brings those memories back to you as like meaningful and influential.
Yeah, and not just being treated as an equal, but also being allowed the chance to make mistakes. Because sometimes when you treat someone as an equal, you expect a certain amount, a certain standard for them to deliver. And if they fall short of that, then you react a certain way that, oh, I thought like you were supposed to be a professional. I thought you were supposed to have this experience. But as an intern, if you're in high school or you're in college, you should be given the room to make mistakes. You should be allowed to fail, but fail upward. You should be allowed to let your failures be a learning experience for you to do better next time. And I think that is something that is often missing in general internships. There is this expectation that the intern should already have whatever skills that they have, or they should have learned it from school or from wherever they're coming from, without acknowledging that people are coming from different places and there should be room for growth and to make mistakes and learn.
Having grace and space for growth in each opportunity. Great, thank you. Does anyone else have anything to add? Great. We can move on to the next question. What are the benefits of engaging young people in meaningful internships?
I think the benefits of engaging young people in meaningful internships allow them early access to opportunities that they generally do not have. For example, our program, PowerCorps Boston, our priority population with that are returning citizens, court-involved youth who are experiencing housing instabilities, people who are in foster care, and other marginalized populations in the city of Boston. It now allows them an opportunity to feel like they're a part of their city and have a say in what's going on in the future. Able to have the young person feel invested in a belief that has been taken in them from that company. Having someone to have that buy-in for them gives that young person motivation, now allows that young person to feel like they have a voice to contribute. And it also, as we've seen with our program that has been a pipeline for successful career placement, reduction in crime, enrollment in college, and allowing these young people to now get started in careers that they might not have usually had access to. So it brings the feeling of knowing that you're doing what's right, and also giving somebody a start who has started generally 100 yards behind the original starting line.
Great. So giving them that opportunity to, just like Jimmy was talking earlier, we young people have connections to their families and their teachers, but having a professional have this other expectation of you and to be proud of you, right, in what you're doing and accomplishing through your experience.
Definitely. That's all we're looking for, especially as young people when they're starting. Most of us as adults have a hard time putting ourselves back in those shoes of the young person being 17, being in college, understanding what they're going through. So again, to have somebody who's willing to take a chance on you from an early age and grow with you and work with you and develop you professionally means a lot on, you know, how they view you. So you're going to work harder. You're generally going to give more effort. You're willing to make those sacrifices because you recognize that someone made a sacrifice for you to have a meaningful internship that allows you to grow in your field.
Thank you. So this investment that the person's feeling is being made by their mentor or, you know, organization, whatever it is. Thank you. Our next question is, why are firms and companies hosting these internships?
I wanted to make a quick note. The pick was supposed to be here, but the BSA works directly with the Boston Private Industry Council, the PIC, which is part of the mayor's summer jobs program. So there's upwards of 8,000 positions each summer that are in a variety of different fields. Architecture is a small fraction of that, but what we don't have in size, we have in heart, I think, especially amongst the firms. And something that's come up across all the firms that are currently participating is kind of three different scales of their why. There's the staff level why, where they have seen so much growth in their staff, especially emerging staff, emerging professionals who typically on a project team wouldn't be taking a leadership or managerial role, but by being directly connected with the high school internship program, fostering that, learning facilitation skills, and starting to build their confidence to facilitate and manage and lead, and also have knowledge to share with them. I think so often emerging professionals feel like they are in a sea of information that they are learning, but they do have so much to share with youth and with high schoolers. So there's that one piece about staff. The next why is about kind of organizational missions. A lot of them have missions and values that they want to invest in, but aren't able to typically do that through their typical project structures. And by developing their internship program, it's a very tangible way to see impact on the youth and have the youth develop over the 6 weeks program, keep up with them and pursue those relationships further and connections further as those students start to work through high school and then potentially post-grad, what that looks like for them. So there is that investment piece. And then there's a larger why of the architecture profession is in a current state where it needs to diversify, it needs to expand, and it's very inaccessible, especially with the educational structure that's required to even begin to access your time in the office. So to provide these paid internships that students can access 4 times, grades 9 through 12, even before they hit the ground running after high school graduation, that is invaluable to pursue those options and provide that access, and to ideally downstream provide more expanded diversity in the profession, push the profession to evolve and modernize and get those future youth perspectives in what hopefully is a much different profession in the future.
Incredible. Does anyone else have any other reasons why their organizations or Ben is going to share?
You know, I would echo all of that. I completely agree that um, these goals of that Taylor has run through are critical, and I think maybe a corollary to the third one related to diversifying the pipeline is recruitment and the opportunity to engage with people that could in the future be a colleague, and that level of exposure, particularly in the kinds of fields like ours that are a bit more niche, where you know, speaking to some of Tariq's comments about exposure to new fields, internships provide an opportunity for a young person to have exposure and access to a field that they maybe didn't know existed, or if they didn't really know much about it, and so, you know, broadening that diversity of the pipeline, and then really, you know, looking at opportunities for long-term recruitment.
Just to add to just what Ben said, it's very important that for like the future of any industry, it's very important that the young people, the next generation, are starting to have their voices start to shape how that industry is going, because they are the ones who are going to be the professionals in the future. And rather than letting the current state or reality of these industries determine how they think, I think a lot of industries could benefit and evolve from allowing the younger generation to shape how the industry moves, because they are more in tune with how society is changing, how the world is changing. And so if those new ideas, those innovative ideas, the creative thinking of the young mind can like feed into an industry, it can really change the course of how things like happen. It can change the course of an entire industry when you allow more young people to express themselves through meaningful internships and then really engage with the present, but also the future of any like industry.
Yes, I agree. That's definitely one of the things that I didn't mention, but it is it's almost like a responsibility that the industries have to prepare the next generation to be better and more innovative and more ambitious than they were, right? So instead of like gatekeeping, being able to empower the next generation to be imaginative and creative and think out of the box. I think those are really great points, everyone. Thank you. Um, what is the benefit to your staff of hosting internships?
There are so many benefits to the staff to hosting an internship. It's hard to know where even to begin, but maybe piggybacking on Taylor, where you started, the opportunity for current staff, maybe especially your more junior staff that doesn't day to day have an opportunity to be a manager or be a leader, to give them some training and opportunities to mentor and to lead is just enormously valuable. We learn so much in the act of teaching and so much in the act of mentoring that we ourselves become stronger at what we do. And these are critical skills that are necessary as a person on your staff advances in their career, ultimately for project management and eventually firm leadership and industry leadership. So tip of the spear absolutely is that benefit. Related to the second thing you mentioned around mission, there's also benefits for the staff around getting excited about what we are and who we are and what we're doing. There is an opportunity outside of the day-to-day project work to really step back and say, why are we in this profession? And what are the benefits of this profession? And let's share that with some excited and interested and curious youth. And through that excitement, engender and reaffirm our own mission. And often, at least in the internships that we do, an opportunity to step away from project work and engage internal research projects and other opportunities that are structured around the internship program that not only benefit the intern and give them great experience, but also actually move the football down the field when it comes to advancing research interests or advancing other mission-oriented aims that may be central to a firm's identity.
Great, thank you. Anyone else would like to add to that? Amazing. Thank you so much. What are the myths? This is my favorite one because there's many myths associated with internships. What fears and concerns do companies often raise about engaging with young interns, and what is the reality? And this is for any of you to answer.
Some of the myths that are often perpetuated or kept there is a disconnect from top leadership to the staff who's going to be training them. So sometimes and oftentimes that the leadership of the company would be all in, bought in for everything that's going on for the internship. And you may get somebody who's there to train the intern who knows nothing about them, their education level, where they come from, what their background is. All they know is that they've had somebody slapped on their desk who's been assigned to them. So it's like the not understanding that breakdown, that people might not be able to comprehend or process where they come from or where they're at because of their age. Again, this generation is so fast forward thinking and moving and innovating that stuff that most people 10 years ago would assume that a 17-year-old might not be able to handle. These kids today generally can handle all of that stuff and more. So just the slight belief of like ageism, not giving them the understanding that just because you may be young, that you may not understand. And that, you know, something that our program executive director has taught is that leadership knows no age. So that if you have what it takes to have the vision to get it done, that someone should believe in you and buy into and invest in you to get it done.
I'll add on to that for a myth from the firm's perspective. I think it's that they can't do it, or that it's just not going to happen right now, or we can do it later. And that's all well and good. I understand that business is changing. The last multiple years have a lot of downstream effects. So firms are pressed for time and resources, but from the firms that have done it, especially those that have tackled it over the last couple of years, they've really emphasized doing it and learning and growing as they're doing that. And the hardest part was just agreeing and moving forward with that. I know there might be some firms online here, and if you are, the firms that are currently involved, at least with the high school program, they are willing and open to sharing with you about their processes, models they've developed, curricula, because ultimately we want to be able to share this to allow more firms, to allow for more opportunities, and ultimately more youth to be able to have these paid opportunities. So there's a whole network of people here, both here at Sasaki and Sasaki Foundation, but then with the BSA, the PIC, and all of the other different actors that are willing to share their knowledge of how they did it, whether it's breaking down numbers to what that weekly structure looks like, to oversight and what staffing looks like in regards to that 6-week internship. So I know that there's always budget concerns and things like that, but sometimes the hardest part is just getting started.
In talking with other firm leaders that let me describe as internship skeptical, and I have heard a word used that I really bristle at, and I think is maybe underscoring some misconceptions about what an internship is, and that is the word babysit. Internships, says such a skeptical person, well, I don't want to pay my staff to babysit. And to me, that that word or that way of thinking implies certain misconceptions about what an internship is, because it's really not babysitting. It doesn't actually have very much in common with babysitting. But there is an idea out there that on some level it is valueless, that it is like just kind of taking care of these kids and, you know, keeping the, you know, keeping them happy or whatever, keeping them entertained or whatever. Well, you know, that implies, that way of thinking to me implies that you're not seeing the richness of the benefit, both for the intern and for the firm or the host organization and the staff of that host organization. And then, you know, there's also an implication in that term that I think really belittles the participants. They're not babies, and in fact are quite capable of contributing in meaningful ways to advance project work, internal research, training opportunities, everything we've been talking about all this time.
Yes, I agree. Oh,
Just to add to what Ben said, I think a myth that is pretty common is that you can just hire a bunch of interns, tell them to come to the office and call it an internship. Just hire a bunch of kids, tell them to come to the office and start working and call it an internship without putting any intention, without putting any structure, without putting any plan. Just telling people to come to the office and sit down and do tasks is not an internship, right? You're just having like a site visit that you're paying people to come and have, like you're paying people for a site visit. And so like putting intention and structure behind it is a myth that I think firms really need to, like, or not putting intention and structure behind an internship is something that firms need to do away with and move beyond. Another thing that I would add quickly is that firms often believe that representation is the same as equity, and it's not the same thing. Just hiring a bunch of people from diverse groups and telling them to come to your firm and showing them around and telling them they can do this and do this. If you're not putting that effort and intention to make sure that the barriers to certain groups are broken down and people have access and pathways to pursue that career, as with your internship, if you're not letting them know about the disparities and the disadvantages that might come with certain like identities or that are imposed on certain identities by society in the field, and giving them like pathways to break those barriers and move beyond those things, then it's not equity. You're just representing, which is not the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Jimmy. And to Ben's point about the babysitting, I agree. I think that there is it's part of like, history, the past of like what internships have been. And we've learned so much and advanced so much in understanding youth development, understanding psychology, understanding communication skills, that I think that, that has to kind of be left in the past, and there has to be like a new standard set for internships, right? Which is like what we're trying to do, is set that standard that, it is not babysitting. It is a whole person that's being developed. It's developing a person. It's not babysitting. So I think that's great that you brought those points up, and I agree definitely with what Jimmy said. Thank you. So we're going to go into our breakout groups. Oh, amazing. There's a question. Yes, let's take the question. Thank you. Before we go into breakup groups. Okay.
Yeah.
Acknowledging that paid internships are the gold standard of engagement with learners, research shows that continuous regular connections through varied work-based learning are the most impactful. How are your organizations engaging with learners outside of internships? Great, that's a great question.
Very good question. Something that I'm thinking about every day. For the high schoolers, through the Private Industry Council and their vast network of career specialists that are in all Boston Public schools, all Boston Public high schools, there's a constant connection between other programs that eventually could feed into the internship, or other directions that the students want to pursue, all in the idea of pursuing those opportunities for the students, getting them to think through their interest, whether it's a 3-day program, a week program, something that pops up that eventually could feed into a summer internship. Last week, Architecture and Design Thinking Week was hosted at the BSA. Sasaki Foundation was involved, as well as 3 other firms. And that grew out of a single-day program prior to the pandemic that has now run during vacation weeks as a paid program. And it's really to get hands-on guidance from architects and designers, but also to allow students to be able to explore and think through their ideas through the lens of design, and try their hand at model making and drawing and all of those things. But ultimately, the goal isn't for career readiness or career exploration. It's just that spark. And then personally and professionally, with the K-12 focus, there's a lot of early staged options from kindergarten all the way up through 8th grade, where things become more of a career and workplace focus. But there is a lot of different opportunities in the city of Boston, both with the BSA, Sasaki Foundation, and a variety of other partners, Youth Build, the Designery, Autodesk, countless others that are doing really important work at very different intervals and stages throughout the school year.
Thank you.
Something I can add to what Taylor has said is that the Hideo Sasaki Foundation, a lot of our programs, our youth education programs, are very intentional about making connections between the interns and professionals in the industry. And a good relationship should extend beyond just the frames of the workplace, right? If you develop a connection with your mentor, or if you develop a connection with your supervisor, they are someone you should be able to connect to even after your internship is done. If an internship was truly meaningful and had impact on you, that means it has helped you develop a relationship with someone that you could always like go back to, or someone you could always send an email and ask for advice about, there's this course that I'm interested in college, and I'm thinking that maybe it doesn't fit well with my, and then you have that can talk you through it or can give you an idea or share an experience with what they went through when they were in college or what they went through earlier on in their career. And those relationships really should extend way beyond an internship. And that's what I think a meaningful internship should strive to build. Those bridges between people, connect people together, even beyond an internship or even beyond like employment or a job. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, great. Yep. I'm just going to repeat for Zoom. So the question was, do you expect interns to come in with a set of skills already? And what do you want them to leave with, I believe, right? What is it? What are the goals for them at the end of it?
The only skill that is most desirable for an intern to come in with is just the ability to want to learn more. Anybody who already comes in thinking they know or have a set of skills that benefits what's going on, usually it's not going to work out because they have set ways already that generally don't work. With our program, we have workforce development workshops for our young people that are based in resume writing and all of that. And some do come in with resumes, but like our workforce development team has them understand that, even though you do have one, you still need more to work with. So growing them with that, having the young people understand that you may have some understanding of what's going on or whatever, but it's better to be teachable, be a blank slate, come in with nothing, honestly, just a good attitude, great spirit, more energy. And that's pretty much what's going to seal the deal as far as anybody taking it to the next level, because anybody will tell you that we'll train anybody. You just need to be there, one, on time, and then have good effort.
Yeah, I love all of that intellectual curiosity, right? Like be curious, ask questions, so valuable. And then I would say interest, or even better than interest, real passion for the subject, right? What is this organization that you're doing an internship? What are they about? What are they doing? And do you embrace that? Are you, as an intern, interested in the subject, even passionate about the subject of what it is that they're trying to accomplish? As far as what you're getting out of it, out of the internship program, we certainly hope to spark and motivate continued learning and continued interest. And so we're building from strength and feeding those flames, right, of continued learning, and to say, okay, yeah, I get it. I see the application of this. What can I take back to my educational institution to be thoughtful and proactive as a learner? So much of pedagogy is passive. I'm gonna learn what I'm taught. We would love interns coming out of our programs to go back to their educational institutions with a proactive orientation. I want to learn about X or Y or Z because I'm seeing how it is that may play out in either a research context or a project context or an industrial context. And that stance and that sort of proactive engagement with learning is going to put them in even better position to then be hireable later on.
And just to add to that, as you were saying, your organizations or institutions or you have technical, part to it. I think it's all about evaluating, what it is you want them to learn, and learning a little bit about youth development, where that set of skills may fall. Because I think it's like setting up realistic expectations for yourselves and for the intern, so that it's a win-win at the end of it. It's not this something that it's unreachable for them, but it's also unreachable for you to teach them. So it should be like on the middle ground of like, exploring what it is, being in, like we've said the word intentional a lot, being like, okay, I want them to come out of it with this set of like administrative work. The administrative work should be this set of skills. And how do I do that? What do I wish someone had taught me? Really, a lot of it is like, empathetic, implementation of our own, like, well, I wish I could have learned this, when I was younger at this way, or more communication or less communication, or, all these things. But each industry has its own set of, requirements, and I think that's breaking it down for yourselves is really useful and seeing what you would want that intern to have and to come in with a certain set of skills or abilities based on their age level and development. That's very important.
And just to add on to that, internships, I feel don't have to be rigid as well. They can be very fluid, and different people are coming from different places with different skill levels. And if you can take the time to tailor an internship to meet the person where they are, like you can have a different group of interns, the same internship program, but they're all from different places, all at different levels. And if you can take the time to tailor to what people need and what can really help someone grow as a professional, but also as a person, then you're then you're then helping everyone. At the end of the day, everyone might be either at the same level, some people might be way higher than everyone, but everybody has gained something. Everybody has gone up one level. So nobody is starting off at the same place and so we don't all have to end up at the same place either. But as long as we're all making progress, getting better as we grow, and I think that is the best way to think about it.
Thank you, everyone. Oh, awesome, Taylor.
I just wanted to make maybe a distinction between the high school and college internships. You all alluded to age and the varying levels in that. For the high school internships, it's 3 to 4 days in the office. Fridays, there's another activity over 6 weeks. So there's a time crunch. And a lot of times the technology that we use is a barrier. Some of it is workable and approachable. And if it adds to the student starting to understand their ideas more and being able to clarify them, then firms will start to invest in that and start to allow those students to explore that technology. But we've found over the years that paring back to the analog, to ideas and drawing and model making, and then introducing software, if it's going to add and enhance to those things rather than letting a lot of the technicality drive it. That seems to be really beneficial to all parties involved for that age group. As students grow and some students are coming in with more technical know-how than others, then they might start to pursue that, especially if they come to a second-year internship with another firm. But kind of paring back to the basics, making things more digestible, and then adding in those technical details when applicable and software when applicable.